And today I'll be talking about Dharma. And Dharma has many different meanings. And so we're going to be talking about its various meanings today, and really the one meaning that underlies all of the other uses of the word. Some of you have heard of Dharma as meaning your purpose in life. Some of you have thought of Dharma as how should you serve? What kind of work should you do? What's my Dharma? What direction am I supposed to go in during my life? Some have used the word Dharma to mean laws or justice. And so today we're going to explore all of that. And my great hope today is really to help you to find your Dharma in life. And even more so, to begin to live your Dharma in life. So I want to welcome Mina and Shraddha and Barbara and Rafi who have just come on in. Welcome to today's program on Facebook Live. And so Dharma is really, truly about living in alignment with the divine. That's all Dharma really means. It means that your every action, your every motivation is not coming from your ego. It's coming from something greater than yourself. You can call that God. You can call that Jesus. You can call that Krishna. You can call that Guru. It's coming from something greater than your mind. It's not you trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do right now? What kind of work am I supposed to do in the world? How am I supposed to serve in the world? What's my purpose? It's not that at all. It's coming from something much greater. It's coming from a place within you that is greater than your ego. It's coming from your higher self. It's coming from your divine self. And it's coming from that part of your divine self that is connected to the divine within all of creation. This is what Dharma really is. So many people come to me and ask me, what am I supposed to do? What's my next step in life? How do I know if studying Ayurveda is the right path for me? How do I know if studying yoga is the right path for me? How do I know if living in an ashram or being a householder is the right path for me? I want to share with you a couple of stories to begin with in my own life, where trying to find that alignment with the divine has been so important and successful. And so my hope is that you will learn in your life what you can do. I don't want you to look outside yourself. I don't want you to look outside yourself for the answers. I want you to look within, because all the answers lie within you. If I were to tell you what to do, or a teacher were to tell you what to do, or a doctor were to tell you what to do, well then that would disempower you. If you can learn to listen within and know what actions to take are in the highest alignment, then that would be the greatest empowerment of all. So let me share with you a story to begin with. One of my early experiences of Dharma was when I was about to graduate from chiropractic school. Actually, it was even before that. It was when I was about to start my internship in chiropractic school. I had studied for years this great science. I had studied how to adjust and manipulate the spine. I had studied the medical sciences. I felt ready to go into internship. And when I started my internship, I felt a little bit lost. I felt like, gosh, there's something missing when I touch these patients. I'm analyzing everything. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I'm getting okay results. But something was missing and I didn't know what that was. So I went to a local mountain. I climbed the local mountain. I went to the mountaintop at Rancho San Antonio Park in Los Altos. And I decided that I would sit there and that I would meditate and I would pray all day long. I had never done that before. I was going to ask God, what is it that I'm supposed to know right now? And how is this going to guide my life? Because something is missing and I don't know what it is. In fact, I was getting depressed. Even though I was a very good student, I was a very good chiropractor as an intern. But I was getting depressed as I started to see patients because there was something empty, something was missing. What was it? I didn't know, and I didn't know what to do. So I got up there early in the morning and I sat and I meditated and I prayed, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. Noon came around and there was still no sign of God and no answers to be found. Now, I didn't know if I was going to see a burning bush. I didn't know if I was going to have a coyote come by and talk to me. I was open to any way in which God wanted to talk to me. I was looking for a sign. I was looking for an answer. And yes, I was desperate. I was at that desperate moment. I felt like my life was meaningless, even though I was doing what I seemed to have worked toward. My life felt meaningless. I sat until 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. The sun was going down, and still there was no answer anywhere to be found. I prayed as hard as I could. I meditated as much as I could. I wanted that answer. I wanted that answer. But there was no answer. As it was getting darker, I realized I wasn't prepared to stay overnight. And I was really committed. Boy, was I disappointed. I felt dejected now by God, and I hadn't asked God for help many times in my life, if any, in my life at that point in time. I was 20, maybe 22 years old, or 24 years old. I hadn't asked God for help. And now I felt dejected, and I started to walk down the mountain, and I was walking down these switchbacks. Switchbacks go down the steep side of the mountain. And all of a sudden I turned one of those switchbacks, and all of a sudden I heard a voice, and that voice spoke to me so clearly. It gave me the answer to the question that I had been praying and meditating upon all day long. It stopped me in my tracks. It was like being hit over the head with a 2x4. It really was. I couldn't believe it. There was the answer. I just knew it. Now, I'm sure that if you were standing next to me, you would not have heard the voice of God. And even talking about that, you must think I'm a bit crazy. God is talking to me. I'm hearing voices. But indeed, I did. And if you were standing next to me, I have no doubt that you would not have heard that, because it spoke from within. It didn't come from an external source. And yet, it was so clearly not my voice. It was not my mind. It was not me. I was empty. I had given up. And in the emptiness, in the having given up, the space was there for the answer to emerge. And what I learned in that moment was very profound for me. At that moment, it was exactly what I needed to know. It was that I needed to learn to love every single patient that came to see me. And that if I could truly love every single patient that came to see me, then something extra would happen when I was with them. That I would just know what to do. I would know what to say. My hands would know where to go. I walked down the mountain with a spring in my step, a smile on my face, and I was ready to go back into the clinic. And every single person I saw after that, had this remarkable experience with me. I was different. I was different after that moment, because now a switch had been turned on within me. My heart had opened a couple of sizes bigger in that moment. Now, that's been a journey my whole life, and I hope that my heart continues to open even more and more and more, one petal at a time, till the entire lotus flower is open. But that was a very important moment for me, and that's Dharma. Dharma is when the energy flows from above down and the inside out, from the divine to the self, and then turns into action. That is Dharma. My actions with every patient after that were different. My interactions with every patient after that was different. They were well served. They were better served than before. They got better more often than they did before. And that's an example of Dharma. Let me give you another example of Dharma from my life. Years later, I felt lost again. I had herniated discs in my back. I had been questioning very seriously whether or not chiropractic was even the right path for me. Because, I came to the realization, those of you that have read my book, Healing Your Life, I came to the realization that there was more to healing than correcting subluxations of the spine, that there was deeper reasons why people were sick, and I felt that I had to address those deepest reasons. And I felt that the work that I was doing, even though I was doing profound work in practice now, and I was seeing patients, I was doing work on their spines and also on the subtle energy body of patients. I was doing energy work plus chiropractic, and still I felt that there was more. Combined with a herniated disc, I decided that it was time to try to find something else. So I'm going to make a long story short. I sold my practice. I sat in meditation. I sat in meditation and I prayed again to God. Now I knew that God could speak to me. I knew that I had a relationship with the divine. And and so I sat there and I prayed and I meditated. I did this every day. I didn't do one of those all-nighters or all day long on top of a mountain. I did it in my living room every single day. I just prayed and meditated that my path would unfold before me and that I would have the courage to walk it. That was my prayer. I said, God, just show me the path and I'll completely surrender and I will walk that path. Show me a path. And so I waited and waited, and every day I prayed. And then a flyer came in the mail. And the flyer came in the mail, and it was for a program in holistic medicine, postgraduate through New York Chiropractic College, where I could study Chinese medicine and herbalism and homeopathy and something I'd never heard of before, Ayurveda. And something about that flyer completely caught my attention. I thought maybe here is where I'm being guided. And so I took that program, and sure enough, when I started to study Ayurvedic medicine, it was as though everything I'd ever known came back to me. I knew in that instant that I was in the right place. I knew in that instant that everything I was studying felt right at a deep place within my own heart. And I didn't know exactly what that meant in terms of my future, but it was very, very clear in terms of my present that this was what I was supposed to absorb myself in. And so I took the actions of studying Ayurveda. I completed the course. I pursued additional teachers, Dr. David Frawley, Dr. Subhash Ranade. I pursued different teachers. I pursued the classical texts. I took the actions that were inspired by this divine connection, and those actions are dharmic. When we take the actions that are dharmic, it is as though we are being utilized as an instrument and we are not making the decisions ourselves. It's not my intellect that made the decision. I wasn't sitting there going, well, would this be a good career move for me to sell my Ayurvedic practice at the age of about 26 or 7? No, that's not a good career move. I was at the peak of my income at the time, and I walked away from it. I walked away from it. Was it a good career move to start studying Ayurvedic medicine, a science that nobody had ever heard of in the United States, or very few people? No, that's not a good career move. But there was no choice involved because it was being inspired by the divine. And when the action is inspired by the divine, the action is dharmic. And so I did. And it led me to where I am today, now directing a college of Ayurvedic medicine and supporting building a profession for Ayurvedic medicine, not only here in the United States, but throughout the world. That's my Dharma, is to be of service through Ayurveda. Now, there was another moment of great Dharma in my life I want to share with you, of those moments of seeking clarity. And this wasn't one of desperation, but it was one of, because those other two, I was feeling pretty desperate at the time when I had those mystical experiences. This one, I wasn't quite so desperate, but I was determined. I was sitting in meditation, as I had meditated now every morning. This was during after several years of studying Ayurveda and studying yoga, and I was sitting in meditation in my garage. My garage had been remodeled, so it wasn't a cold garage. But I was sitting in meditation in my garage, which had become my office and an herb room and things like that. And I was praying for clarity about what I'm supposed to do with all of this knowledge that I've been studying. And I prayed with earnestness, and I was ready. I surrendered my life to God. I was really, I had really done that actually when I was sitting in my living room, and I prayed that every day my path would unfold before me and that I would have the courage to walk it. I said to God, you drive. I'm going to be in the back seat. And you decide where it is that I need to go. I'm done directing my life. Directing my life didn't work out so well. Those of you that know my story know that it led to a lot of burnout. It led to a lot of illness in my life, a lot of unhappiness in my life. I said, I'm done. I'm sitting in the back seat. You drive. So now, fast forward a few years later, and I'm in my garage, and I'm praying, what should I do with this knowledge that I have received? And all of a sudden I see a visual image in my meditation, two hands like this, with a lotus flower in the middle, and it's drifting toward me. It's drifting toward me, and now that voice appears again. And that voice appears again, the same one that spoke to me on the mountaintop. And this voice says to me that my Dharma, my work in this world is to build a profession, Ayurvedic medicine. It says, start by creating a school and educating people, and then start a state national association. And so I just listened, and eventually the vision disappeared, the audio vision disappeared, and I came out of my meditation, and I realized exactly what I was supposed to do. There were some people I told who thought I was nuts. Not only nuts because here I am, hearing voices and seeing things again, but I was nuts because who can do that? Who can do that? You're crazy. Do you know how much work that'll be? Well, all I could do was serve. And so I did my best. I talked to my teachers. I went into seclusion and I wrote curriculum. I got the support of my teachers. And sure enough, we started the California College of Ayurveda. My graduates and I started the California Association of Ayurvedic Medicine, and myself and several others started the National Ayurvedic Medical Association, the National Association of Ayurvedic Schools and Colleges. And so this has been the work that I do. This is my Dharma. This is work that moves from above down and the inside out. So how do you do this? And that's what I want to talk about now. How can you do this? All right. So I'm going to kind of give it to you in a few simple steps. The first step is you got to get yourself ready. You got to get yourself ready, and whatever that means to you. You see, if God were to talk to you, would you listen? The truth is, for most people, no. God's talking to you all the time, and that's the truth, and you're not listening. And that's because you might not like what God has to say. And when I talk about God here, what I really mean, and I'm going to talk about this more later, hope I'll remember to, that when I talk about God in this context, what I really mean is that divine essence. And when it speaks to you, you have to be ready. You have to be ready to follow that divine direction. And if you're not going to hear the voice. You got to be ready to surrender. If you're not ready to surrender, you're not going to get the guidance. It just doesn't happen that way. All right. So you've got to get yourself ready. Some people, that happens through desperation, great illness, great despair. Once you've had it happen once, like I did, you're ready for it to happen again and again. You don't need to be so desperate. You don't need to be in despair. But unfortunately, some people need that in order to be cracked open. So that's the first step of what you need. What's the second step then to being able to find your Dharma? The second step, now you're ready, is you've got to now take the action to meditate and pray. Either one, in Christian traditions and Judeo-Christian traditions, just pray, just speak to God in the many ways in which you've learned to do that. And you're trying to get higher guidance. And that really is Dharma. And in the yogic tradition, the Hindu tradition, the Buddhist tradition, it's through meditation. It's through meditation and emptying oneself so that you can receive. Sometimes you have to empty out what is inside in order to make the space to receive something new. And so I like to utilize the combination of meditation and prayer. Meditate to empty everything out and to open yourself up to the possibility, and pray for help. You got to be able to ask. It's a humbling thing to do. It really is. For me, it was a very humbling thing to do. For me, it was like, I'm going to ask God for help. I can do it myself. I know what's best for me. But really, that was just my fear of losing control, of being told something I didn't want to hear. I mean, what would happen to you if you were told your Dharma and you were like, I don't want to do that. What do you mean I'm supposed to open a bakery? I don't want to do that. What do you mean I'm supposed to go to music school? I don't want to do that. What do you mean I'm supposed to study Ayurvedic medicine and give up my job as a nurse, a medical doctor, an architect? I don't want to do that. You see, if you're not ready, you're actually not going to get the guidance that you need. You've got to get yourself ready. Meditation and prayer can be that way to get yourself ready. Once you are ready, then you will receive. You do this, and I assure you, without doubt, that you will receive. Now, to get themselves ready, people have done some pretty extraordinary things to help get themselves ready. You know, in the Native American tradition, people would do a vision quest. What is a vision quest except meditation and prayer and the process of becoming ready, all wrapped up in one? You know, you're making a big commitment when you do a Native American vision quest. You know, you're putting aside your life, you're going out into the mountains, you're going to live very simply, and you're going to look for signs of what it is that you're supposed to do. Well, this is Dharma. Dharma is not unique to yoga. Dharma is not unique to Hinduism or Buddhism. It is the inherent process of connecting to that which is greater than ourselves, receiving that guidance, and then taking the actions that guidance propels within us. Dharma is sometimes described as right action. I'm not a fond fan of the word right because it brings up the opposite, wrong. Rather, I look at it as action that is inspired. Inspiration comes from the Latin root spire, which is spirit. Inspiration is expressing the spirit within. So it means that action is inspired from something greater than your own ego. And whether you do a Native American vision quest, whether you do a 10-day meditation retreat, whether you wake up every morning and pray and meditate, whether you go to church or go to temple and you pray and you meditate, as long as you stay focused on this question that you have, what is it that I'm supposed to do in my life? Or what action should I take? Maybe you're at a crossroad. Maybe you're at a crossroad in a relationship. Should I stay or should I go? Pray, meditate, and be ready for the answer that you receive, even if you don't like it. And be sure that it is coming from something greater than yourself. Now, what do I mean by God? God in yoga means that God will take whatever form is dear to the yogi. So I saw a vision. I was ready to see a vision. I heard a voice. I was ready to hear a voice. I wasn't ready to see a burning bush. I probably would have run away thinking there was a forest fire. Okay? And so God will come to you in whatever form you're ready to receive the divine. That's what's meant in yoga by God. That's what's meant in yoga. That's why in yoga tradition, in Hindu tradition, God has so many faces, so many different forms. And you can select the devata that matters to you, the form of God that you want to worship. Now, I know that's different than in some traditions, but yoga is very inclusive. So Jesus can be your God. Muhammad could be your God. A raven could be your God. The river could be your God. Krishna could be your God. God will take whatever form is dear to you. Maybe there's no form, and that's okay too. The essence, the swarup, the essence can be God to you. It just means being in relationship with that which is greater than yourself. Now, if you have any questions, you can type them in, and my assistant is going to be bringing them in just a moment. And I'll take a few questions from you regarding Dharma. I want to just end by saying a few last comments. And that is, life is challenging. It's not all, lollipops and balloons. There's going to be some challenges that occur. Just because you're following Dharma does not mean that it's going to be easier. I do believe you'll be happier, or maybe a better word is more content. I do believe that you will have greater inner peace. I know I have. But that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Because your Dharma does not mean that it's going to be easy. It's going to be real work for you to live your Dharma. It's going to be real work for you to live your Dharma. So don't think just because there are struggles that you're not supposed to do this or do whatever this is for you. Rather, keep checking in. Never say to yourself, well, if it was meant to be this difficult, then it must not be my Dharma. Never, ever, ever say that. Because you are going to be asked to grow. You are going to be asked to stretch. And that too is the nature of Dharma. It is helping you grow and helping you stretch. And it is your heart that is going to grow through the struggle. It is your heart that is going to stretch through the struggle. And you're going to come to a deeper place of compassion for yourself and others, a deeper place of love for yourself and for others. I want to leave you with one last story, but first I'm going to take a question that came in. How can we differentiate whether it is ego talking or the divine talking? It's a great question. And the thing is that when the divine speaks to you, you're going to be excited. You're going to be so excited that you're going to know. When it's the ego that speaks to you, you're going to think you have the answer. The ego speaks through the mind, and the divine speaks through your heart. So if you think you have the answer, if you even have to think, is this it? Then I can assure you that that's coming from your ego. But if you know, truly know that this is the path to follow, there's no doubt that's left, then you know that has come from the divine. So I'm going to share a story with you. And this is the story of Yudhishthira, who is one of the he's not one, he is the eldest of the Pandava brothers in the great story of the Mahabharata. And in this story, he's wandering through the forest. He's actually on his way to heaven. But he's wandering through the forest and he comes upon a great crane. And this crane blocks his path and asks him a question. And the question is, what is true religion? What is true religion? And Yudhishthira is the eldest of the wisest of the Pandava brothers. It includes Arjuna and others. What is true religion? And what Yudhishthira says is, true religion cannot be known through scripture. True religion cannot be known through, and I'm going to paraphrase here, through words. True religion is the path that is walked by the saints, lived by the saints, lived by the rishis. What does that mean? It means that true religion is that which is lived, not that which is known. The crane was actually the personification of Dharma, which means that Dharma, and by the way, the crane lets him pass. Dharma is known through living, not through learning. You can learn all about Dharma. You could study scriptures and study texts, and you can study the Upanishads and study the Brahmanas and the Aranyakas, all these different texts. You can quote scripture. But this simple teaching, and by the way, that's important too. That can get you ready. But this important scripture or teaching is simply the true religion is about how you live in the world. It's about living in the manner that the divine is flowing from above down and guiding your every action. That is true religion. So at the risk for being blasphemous to some, it doesn't matter if you read scripture or go to temple or church. What matters is how you live your life. You know? Is every action guided by the divine self? And if it is, every action will be unconditionally loving, compassionate, kind, generous. You will be the embodiment of love. And this is what Dharma seeks. And this is what in the Mahabharata, this is what purifies your heart and qualifies you to enter heaven. And so whether you think about heaven or not, it doesn't matter. It's going to make you the best human being that you can be, is to let go of the ego and live life according to your higher self. I have a couple of more questions that have come in. How do you know if it's fear or intuition or God, especially when one is really sick? I find because I'm in a lot of pain and I have a hard time knowing the difference. Another time that I was in a lot of pain was when I was suffering and crippled with Lyme disease. And I was laying in bed and I was crying, mourning the loss of the life that I thought I was going to live. And that was right at graduation for me from chiropractic school. It was a very interesting time in my life, that whole 10-year period. And I was in a lot of pain. The weight of a bedsheet on my body caused me to scream in excruciating pain. I had fevers. My body wasn't working right. My liver wasn't working properly. How do you know if it's fear, intuition, or God? I was there laying, and all of a sudden I had another one of those visions. And God spoke to me again. And God let me know that I needed to go on a journey to heal myself. The journey is told in the book, Healing Your Life. And so, how do you know? Well, it's similar to the answer to the last question. You know because you're left with no doubt. You know that the answer came from a place beyond yourself. It was an aha moment. It came from a place beyond yourself. There are no more doubts when you hear the word of God. If you're thinking, is this God, then you know it's not. If you're thinking, is this coming from my higher self, then you know it's not. Could this be coming from my fear? Then you know it is. Because when you get that guidance, it is so clearly coming from a place beyond your mind that it has left you with no doubt. And so I would say to you, meditate some more, pray some more, and know that you're just getting yourself ready. And maybe do this. This helped me. Are you willing to make an agreement with God? Show me a path. Give me the courage to walk it, and I will completely surrender. Are you ready to completely surrender? If you are, then you're really ready. And if you're not going to hear the voice, or if you do, it will be distorted. You've got to be completely ready. That's what so much of our pain and suffering is about, is getting ready. Getting ready. Is it accurate to say that dharmic directions are felt in the body, in the belly, the heart, that egoic directions are felt in the head? To some degree, that can be true, but even that can fool you, because we get all kinds of feelings in our belly sometimes. Nervousness, fear, worry, anxiety can all affect our belly. And sometimes we think things are in our heart, but it's because it makes us feel good. So I would say to you, it is true that the divine speaks to the heart. Yes, it does. And you come to know it in your head. It speaks to your heart, but you have to come to know it and put it into thought. And it's going to come into your head. To know that is really happening. I'm going to say it again. You will have no doubt. I don't have to tell you. I can't tell you. I can't tell you what that's like. You know, there's that old saying in spiritual traditions, those who speak do not know, and those who know do not speak. There are some things that cannot be put into words, and that experience can't be put into words. The most I can do is allude to it, hoping that my words can do it justice. Just as the way in which poetry can inspire your heart, I hope that my words can inspire some inkling of possibility within you. That's the most that I can hope for. I can't tell you whether or not that thought or experience that you're having is a divine experience, but I can tell you this. For me, it left me with no doubts. Nobody had to confirm it for me. It was obvious. It was obvious. Can your Dharma be different from your job? Yeah, absolutely, it can be. Dharma, another meaning of Dharma is service. Another meaning of it is your job. That's one way in which people will define it. But really what it means is the job or service that you provide that is inspired by the divine It is not the job or service that you provide that is coming from your ego, or and coming from your egos from many places. It could be out of fear, it could be out of desperation, it could be I just need money right now to buy some groceries. But that may not be your dharma, and it may be what you're supposed to do for a while, because you do need to survive in the world, and yet you still need to be searching for that dharmic inspiration. What am I supposed to be doing? And you got to get yourself ready, and you've got to pray, and you've got to meditate, you've got to ask for that clarity, and then take the actions that will lead you to it. That may mean going back to school. That may mean getting training. You could be 40 years old and now have to start over. And you may not be living your dharma until you're 50. But you know what? Better that you start living your dharma at 50 than never at all. Or at 60 or at 70 than never at all. Shraddha, faith. How can we differentiate whether it's ego talking to the divine? We keep getting the same question. It's not about faith. No, it's really not. It's really not about faith. It's about knowing, jnana, knowing. Knowing and having that experience will build faith. Where the faith comes in is getting ready. The faith that you can receive this knowledge. It's not faith that I'm going to believe that it's not blind faith. It's not the faith of I'm going to believe that this idea that I have is coming from God. No, it's not that. It's not about believing it. It's about knowing it. Jnana, knowing. It's knowing so deep down inside of you that there is no doubt in you. Nobody had to confirm it. And of course, yes, you will have faith in it then, because that knowing over time may even dissipate a little bit, because you're going to get challenged and you're going to question it again, and then faith does come in. You're going to have the faith to know that that was a true experience. But you will know it in that moment. It'll be so clear. It'll be so clear. I absolutely promise you that when that inspiration comes from the divine, you will be left with no doubt at all. Another question. Does Dharma get fulfilled through karma yoga? If we don't know what your Dharma is, can we just dedicate it to karma yoga and continue? Karma yoga is selfless service, seva. Karma yoga is taking action in the world that is truly inspired by the divine. But when people say karma yoga, sometimes they just mean volunteer service. Okay? And volunteer service is not true and genuine karma yoga, because sometimes we volunteer for selfish reasons. So karma yoga, when it is for a selfish reason, maybe I'm going to do karma yoga in exchange for food and lodging. Maybe I'm going to do karma yoga, my karma yoga will be helping a center out doing things, and they're providing me with something in return. That's fine. That's wonderful. That's part of your preparation. Karma yoga can purify the heart. It can purify the heart, getting you ready to receive that divine guidance. So I wouldn't say, can we just dedicate karma yoga and our lives to karma yoga and continue? I would say karma yoga is a step for many people on their path to coming to know their dharma. Okay? It's a step on the way. Now, for some, it could be their dharma, and that's different. But then you will have that mystical experience, and you will know, and you will completely surrender to maybe a teacher who will give you guidance. Today we need this done, tomorrow we need that done, and the next day we need that done. And you will have no question, and you will absolutely do whatever is needed. And you will not, complain at all, because it is your dharma, and you know that to be of service to this group or organization. That is different than the karma yoga of going to help out somewhere for a while. And so going to help out and do service work is wonderful. There's many ways to do that, whether it's in ashrams or whether it's in service programs that are in different parts of the world. There are so many different opportunities to do service in Africa, service in India, service in ashrams, so many different places, settings for that. You can do service work in so many ways. It's a beautiful thing to do. It purifies the heart, and it gets you ready for that dharma. But you've got to pray, you've got to meditate, and you've got to know that you're ready. All right. I want to invite you, if you're not already a member of our Facebook group, Ayurveda Yoga Nidra and Ayurvedic Yoga Therapy with Dr. Mark Halpern, to come and join our Facebook group. There are new posts almost every single day, many sometimes in a day, in that page that I hope will inspire you and help you to come to know your Dharma and help you to come to know how to live in harmony. I'm also the director of the California College of Ayurveda. Please check out our website for all the various training programs, all the way from being an Ayurvedic counselor to being an Ayurvedic doctor, that we do here at the California College of Ayurveda. And we welcome your questions, of course, about our various programs. We're celebrating our 25th anniversary. We've been here since 1995, and it has been a dharmic journey for me. It doesn't mean it's been easy. It's been a dharmic journey for me to do this work in the world, and it's been my honor. And it has truly been the most heart-opening experience for me that I could have ever dreamed of in my life. And what more could we possibly want in our lives? What more could we possibly want in our lives than to live a life from the heart, and a life that opens the heart? Here at the college, we have programs in the classroom. Our programs are also broadcast online, and we also have special distance learning programs where you can study with a mentor called a master teacher. And we welcome you to inquire about all of those programs. We have students all over the world. Come and join our community. We welcome you. Many blessings to you on your dharmic journey, no matter where it leads you, because where it leads you is exactly where you're supposed to be, because it's guided by the divine. Many blessings. Namaste.